Hi, I'm Antonio Mora. We should all be mad as hell at the anti-vaccine movement. It is long past time to not take it anymore and stand up to these anti-scientific quacks, including Robert F. Kennedy Jr. This year, because of lower vaccination rates, the U.S. has seen an explosion in cases of measles, shutting down schools, even forcing a Caribbean island to quarantine an American cruise ship. The once eradicated deadly disease has reached levels in the U.S. not seen in a quarter century. If all that doesn't make you outraged about the nefarious effects of American anti-vaxxer propaganda campaigns, just give me a minute to tell you about what is happening in Samoa. The outbreak of measles there has killed 53 people, 48 of them children aged 4 and younger. More than 4,000 Samoans have been sickened. That is out of a population of only 200,000. Imagine, that means that 1 out of every 50 Samoans has come down with the measles. Worse yet, measles has killed about 1 out of every 300 kids under the age of 4. On one day this week, 198 new cases were reported. 171 were reported a day later. That's even though the Samoan government declared a state of emergency a couple of weeks ago. It's gotten so bad that the whole government shut down this week in an attempt to accelerate mass vaccinations. Schools are closed and children can't attend public gatherings. How could this happen in a country where just 6 years ago, 90% of kids were vaccinated? The anti-vaccine movement, peddling its extensively debunked claims that the MMR vaccine causes autism, had already lowered vaccinations in Samoa by last year when 2 babies died on the same day after purportedly getting the vaccine. Enter Bobby Kennedy Jr. and his Children's Health Defense Organization, an auto-antonym if I've ever heard one. They're doing everything but defend children. They ran with the story, spending months highlighting it, blaming the MMR vaccine for their deaths. However, investigators found 2 nurses had mistakenly mixed in a lethal dose of a muscle relaxant and then covered it up. They have since been sentenced to prison for manslaughter. Did Kennedy and his organization publicize that and correct the record? Nope. Outraged yet? Well, how about this? Kennedy still went to Samoa in June. And just last month, as measles cases were spreading and children dying, his organization sent a letter to the Samoan Prime Minister urging him to still question the MMR vaccine. The Samoan outbreak may be the worst per capita case in the world, but it's among many other outbreaks around the globe. The worst, in absolute numbers, is in the Democratic Republic of Congo, where nearly 250,000 people have been infected by measles this year, and 5,000 have died. The World Health Organization estimates that 110,000 people, most of them kids under 5 living in underdeveloped countries in Africa and Asia, were killed by the measles in 2017. It's likely gotten worse since. Of course, poverty has a role in those countries, but so do the anti-vaxxers' lies. Developed and well-educated Europe has suffered a setback in its efforts to eradicate measles. The epicenter is in Ukraine, where the anti-vaxxer message resonated, and it had reduced vaccination rates significantly. Almost 57,000 people this year have contracted the disease there. In the U.S., anti-vaxxers and those who claim religious objections to vaccines have lowered vaccination rates so much that many communities no longer have the herd immunity that makes it extremely hard for a disease to spread. Measles is an especially important case because it's unbelievably contagious, one of the most infectious diseases on Earth. However, the problem is also cropping up with other diseases. Whooping cough all but disappeared in the 1940s when a vaccine became available. Now, the U.S. is having outbreaks the likes of which hadn't been seen in more than half a century. Lax laws have permitted too many exemptions and bogus medical excuses, allowing far too many people to not vaccinate their kids. Despite what some have argued, no First Amendment right is violated by mandating vaccination. Your rights end where mine begin. People have the right to worship however they want, but not if what they do threatens the lives of other people's children. The Supreme Court upheld the right of states to compel vaccination more than 100 years ago. Later, the court held that neither the rights of religion nor the rights of parenthood are beyond limitation, and that the right to practice religion freely does not include the right to expose the community or the child to communicable disease. State governments have begun to act, but they all must move and mandate vaccinations with only extremely strict health exceptions before more people get sick and children die.